what I've learned now, that we have a team of 40 is it's like, do I need to do more deals for myself? No, but like we have team members who haven't hit their financial goals yet. And so, or new team members that we bring on board to create opportunity for. So at this point, it's just really fun to grow the company bigger and better to better the lives of our team members. And then also obviously the customers that we serve.
On the show, we're going to sit down and talk about the metamorphosis that happens when you become a leader.
We'll share our biggest wins and our losses and interview other leaders to find out how they stay in charge without losing their minds.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Zach. Welcome to the Who's in Charge podcast. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited today. You are in for a treat. We have Pat Martin today, who we're going to get into some great conversation about who's in charge and what it takes to build this leadership. Pat's been somebody that we've been able to know for years over multiple different groups in real estate and kind of been alongside each other in our journeys as we've grown in our real estate investment companies. And I'm excited today to talk to you, Pat, just with the idea of like have a lot of respect for who you are and what you've been able to accomplish. And, you know, we go into these rooms and we all learn a lot of stuff, but not everybody implements the way that I have seen Pat do. And excited to kind of talk to you about your journey and what you've learned along the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Zach and Stephanie.
Yay. Let's start maybe when we first met. Kind of walk us through your story. How did you get started in this gamut?
Yeah, I vividly remember first meeting you guys because that was in seven-figure flipping, probably my first meeting that I went to, and was probably super scared to hire my first person. And I think it was you, Stephanie, were like, well, duh, you need to hire someone to answer the phone for you. So I think I was just scared to get over that hurdle of hiring somebody and what does that look like and can I afford them? You know, I'd been used to doing all the things on my own, from answering the phone to how do we generate leads to running the appointments and project management, all the things. So that was kind of the start of like what I would call being a business owner, being an entrepreneur and a leader.
Yeah. What year was that?
Well, I don't know. When did we join Seven Figure? We probably joined at about the same time.
When was it? Like 2015?
It's probably more like 15. Yeah.
Yeah. 15-ish, I think.
Yep.
And how many years in the business were you when you joined?
Oh, it's probably, first house 2010, but effectively like 2012 was when I really started buying houses, turning them into rentals.
And it was all you at that time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have any money at that time. So my dad and my brother were my capital partners. But that was the boots on the ground. And yeah, that's how I got started.
How'd you do your first deal?
First deal actually, I think was off the MLS. You know, it was 2010. So we had just moved to Knoxville in 2010 and foreclosures were high. You know, looking back, like it wasn't a deal I should have bought. Like I did all the work myself, probably didn't actually make any money, but learned a lot along the way. Hired a buddy of mine and we both worked for $15 an hour, did all the labor on this house. And sold it. And second one, I think, was also off the MLS. And it's funny because bought this house. It was like yellow house, old aluminum windows, green roof. And like, I remember I turned it into rental, did all the plumbing on it, replumbed it with PEX. But at the time, it's like the deck needed to be replaced, the windows needed to be replaced, the roof needed to be replaced. And that house has changed hands like 3 times since we sold it. I think we sold it for maybe 130 or something in 18, 19. And I think that house just sold for like 300 grand last year, like totally not updated, still aluminum windows, still a roof that needs to be replaced. But
I think even like the benefit there, the takeaway, that like imperfect action, right? Like you look back today and like probably not a deal that you would, continue to make an entire business out of, right? But it's still able to get you started, get you into the game. I remember when we first started, like going to the local RIA groups and those sort of things, like just that separation of like, you've done a deal, right? You go and there's like 100 people there and almost nobody's done anything, right? And like, oh, you're one of the few people that's done one deal or one of the people that's done 2 deals, right? Yeah. And really to start kind of separating yourself out from the pack and kind of getting that education is worth something, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I learned a ton.
And I think probably would you see that lesson has kind of continued on with you with the idea of like action? Like I said, we've been part of groups now for 10 years together, and we've, sat through a lot of education, but like looking at what separates people from receiving education versus actually building something like you, what do you think is a differentiator from, just sitting and taking in that information to creating something as great as what you've been able to create?
So our like one line sentence in our company is make it happen. So we just want everybody to have that mentality of do the do, like make it happen. If it's meant to be, it's up to be. We don't want excuses. We just want drivers who are going to make stuff happen across all the different departments we run.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about different departments today. You started, it was just you. You didn't have anybody.
You didn't want to hire a lead manager.
Yeah. How many people do you have working now? Just to kind of put that in perspective for people.
Yeah. So we are right about 40 W-2 employees right now.
Amazing.
Yeah. And how many deals and transactions does that look like? How many markets are you in?
So we're in 3. We're in Chattanooga. Knoxville's kind of our home base. And then in the Tri-Cities and Northeast Tennessee. We closed about 600 transactions last year, and this year we were closing 70 to 80 transactions a month.
It's big business. So I want to kind of go back a little bit to the beginning because I feel like it's super relatable for really everybody's journey. If you're just starting out, you're listening to this, you're trying to figure out how to grow a business, or if you're, 10 years in and trying to figure out how to stay focused on your original vision. I think in the beginning, there's this point that happens where you'd have to decide whether or not you're going to do it or not. Like, am I going to stay small and do this hobby thing and like flip a couple houses, or do I actually want to start a business? How did you make that decision? Did you feel that same level of hesitancy? Like, am I going to do this? And like, talk me through that transition.
I think it happened slowly over time. But I think I have a personality that just like wants to do something big. And so like, even now I realize like bigger is not always better, but we still have really big goals for our company this year and going forward. But I just like what I've learned now, that we have a team of 40 is it's like, do I need to do more deals for myself? No, but like we have team members who haven't hit their financial goals yet. And so, or new team members that we bring on board to create opportunity for. So at this point, it's just really fun to grow the company bigger and better to better the lives of our team members. And then also obviously the customers that we serve.
Yeah. I think
I love that.
It's interesting how the vision starts, right, with you and your family and creating something for them. But then the vision includes all these wonderful people that we get to help and grow, your team members, and of course the homeowners that you're serving in your market, and you're bringing all these wonderful houses to market again, and seeing that transition over 10 years. Like there's a lot of impact that happens, and I think hitting that first inflection point of like, am I going to do it? Like, am I actually going to go build this business? You feel like another inflection point, like just like you said, of like, okay, it's no longer about me. It's about everybody here. How do I make this big enough for everybody to fit into it?
True. Yeah. And when I started, like when my wife got married young, while I was in school, became the breadwinner. So by the time I got out of college, it was like she was the main income earner. And so we didn't have to eat food or pay rent or pay our mortgage off of what I was doing. So it was kind of able to let that equity and that capital snowball, over those first 5 to 7 years. And we've kind of had a transition over the last, 10, where the last 3 or 4, like she quit what she was doing and is full-time stay-at-home mom. But that was kind of a slow transition for her to get out of what she was doing and for my business and what I do to kind of be the main income source for our family.
Why do you think that was a slow transition?
Well, just because what I was doing was growing, and because she loved what she did, and she had a hard time 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, fully stepping out. So it was just that. It would just kind of happen that way, where she just really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom with all our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which continues to grow. You have how many kids?
7 and 1 on the way. Plus 2. My oldest is 21 or 21, I think, and she's got 2 kids.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Big family. I love it.
But yeah, so that's quite the transition spot. I know Stephanie and I kind of working together. Sometimes we've had like transition roles in terms of who's primary on home front stuff, who's primary on income earning. Tell us about some of that journey. Does that create any kind of tension with the company between you guys, or you guys always just been on the same page?
I think honestly not. Like when she was the breadwinner, I was like, go girl. Like I was just her biggest cheerleader and loved that she was building something cool. And then the same is true for her and my company. And she doesn't play a huge part like actively in it, but I can always trust her for great feedback on, she's not in it every day. And you can always get that kind of 30,000 foot view. Like, hey, here's a problem I'm dealing with. And then she's always got I don't know what you call it, the nose or the stink eye for people who are going to cause problems on the front end.
Nice.
She's got that intuition. If she says don't hire them or they shouldn't be in the office, then you better listen.
Wisdom and discernment, passing them through her first.
That's right.
It's true.
I think it's really cool that both of you are entrepreneurs, and I'm assuming that you have that understanding between the two of you of like just what it takes and the focus, and then the juggling of roles at home, and what it means to be supportive in such a difficult career path. Like it's a roller coaster,
Yeah. What was she building again?
She was in network marketing. So, there's like team building, very entrepreneurial. You kind of each ran your own like business, but it was in the skin wellness, healthcare type space.
And she grew up big.
Yeah. Yeah. Her and her mom and her sister were all extremely successful at it. Her mom and sister are still at it to this day. So that's why it was hard for her to leave, because you built this team of mostly ladies and they're all friends and you're building this thing together. So it took her a few years, I think, to get over that hurdle to admit, okay, I'm actually going to fully step out.
Yeah. I ask because I relate, right? It's hard to make those transitions, especially when you love all the things you're involved in,
Yeah, for sure. But I think neither of my parents were entrepreneurial. My dad was successful in business over his career, but no real entrepreneurial ness from either one of my parents. And so I think when my wife got into network marketing, that kind of opened my eyes to this entrepreneurial journey, and kind of like you get to create what you want, and sky's the limit type of thing.
What brought you to real estate then? Why did you choose that in the beginning?
That's kind of a good question. The first house we did was in the UP of Michigan, where we met and got married. And I think it was my father-in-law. I was like, hey, you should buy this house and fix it up. So our first house we did was up there, and that house I for sure made no money on. I got a $20,000 check when we closed to sell it, which felt like $1 million, but sweat equity there too. Laid the tile, did all the things in the house. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Probably shouldn't have bought a house, but we did. And so we moved to Tennessee in 2010. And I just looked at it as a way to build equity or money for ourselves over time. So we bought one down here, fixed it up, sold it after 2 years, did that. I don't know. We moved like 10, 15 times since we've been in Tennessee. Now I think we're done, and we're going to be in this house for a long time.
Yeah. You got the bug once you did it the first time, right? You're like, okay, I can do this again.
Yeah. I was like, you could do whatever you want to call it, a house hack, a live-in flip, and every 2 years make $100,000 tax free. So that's what we did for our first 5 houses that we were here.
I think we started, very kind of similarly. And I think it's nice because it teaches you like resourcefulness, and perseverance. Like, you've got to be resourceful because I've got no resources. I've got to be able to figure this out. Yeah. And you got to have perseverance because like, shoot, I got to live in this thing. There's only so long that I can not have a working toilet. I'm going to finish this thing one way or the other. And I look back for us, a lot of those lessons that were kind of learned, and probably similar, where we got a check at the end that felt amazing. But if I divided out the number of hours that I put into that thing, probably was not the best investment, but it's what it kind of turns into, right? Which I think is what an investment is. It's about the idea of delayed gratification and what can I do to learn and gain a new skill that can bring me something later.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's always interesting to talk about the beginning because I think, people struggle with where to start and how to make some of those transitions. But what I really want to dig in with you is like the 10-year plus journey. So to stay in the game for 10 plus years takes some grit, and it takes some pivots, and we all took a bunch of hits on the chin over the last decade. And I think there's something to be told for the team, the founder, the company that lasts and has built something that can last and not only survive, but then also turn it back up to thrive. Because I think we all went through a season where like, we just got to survive this. There's a lot of stuff happening with the interest rates and the market and da da da. And then to figure out where the path forward is and thrive again. I think there's something to take away no matter where listeners are on their journey on like how to sustain through 10-year periods of sprinting. Walk us through a little bit of that journey and these different pivot points that you've had. Like, what does it take to last this long?
Yeah, it's definitely not always up and to the right, as you guys know. It felt like that for a period of time. I started, I really got, really going in probably 2012. We started buying houses, turning them into rentals. And like 2014, I started flipping. And so from that point through, probably 2020, it was pretty steady growth and felt like up and to the right. There were always the struggles, right, with different, they call it kind of the rule of 3 and 10, I think. Every time your business, 3X's or 10X's, it's like you create these problems, new problems that have to be solved. And the systems that worked at, 100,000 don't work at 1 million, and the systems that work at 1 million don't work at 10 million. So we had those problems obviously to solve along the way. And then 2022, we had kind of pivoted the business some. We completely stopped wholesaling houses. Everything we put under contract, we took down. And I was like, I'm going to retire. Like, I let someone be CEO, COO, and I stepped out the door. And then I learned like, oh, we like actually don't have great systems for how we operate this company. And so you had that along with the interest rates going from 3 to 8 that kind of put us in a tough spot with all this inventory that we owned.
What made you realize there that you didn't have good systems? Was it the interest rate change or some distress in the market, or what?
Well, I think
what gave you that?
The interest rate exposed the fact that we bought all these houses without great systems for like analyzing, are these houses we should be buying at the prices we're buying? A lot of them really, really rough houses. Some of them, not like in core Knoxville, they may be 30 minutes to an hour out of town. And so what's true is that the deals would have worked if the rates were still at 3, but when the rates went to 8, the buyers dried up for that type of product at the prices that, for us to be profitable on the houses that we bought.
So you had to change all your underwriting criteria then, basically on a dime?
Yeah, well, it felt like a really hard problem to solve because when you buy everything, there's a big delay. And when you put it under contract, you approve it to buy it, and then you actually figure out if you have a good deal or not. So we felt like we made the changes that need to be made, but we kept losing money, on our monthly P&L. But that's because of decisions that were made 3 or 6 months ago. So that was a real mental battle to like, we feel like we're doing everything right. We feel like we fixed the core problems, but it's not turning into the numbers. And so the name of the game for us at that point is don't run out of cash. It's kind of like embarrassing, but it's like the number one metric we were looking at is like how much money is available to draw on our flips so that we don't run out of cash. And so that transpired into the end of 2022, really downsizing the team, kept a core group of people on for sales, core group of people on to just move our assets, project management type people to get our assets off the books. And so through that first half of 2023 was really able to stabilize. We actually made some good money because we were selling off all the assets that we had. Everything got wholesale. We weren't taking down new assets. For a period of a month or two, I think January, February of 23, like marketing got shut off. So expenses were low. But then the goal became, how do we build back better? And so that's what this last 4 years has been about, is how do we build a company that's actually really great at operations?
What does that look like?
For me, it meant finding an operator who's really good at running operations and who looks at the business and, how do we be efficient? How do these systems need, what sort of tools do our team members need to be able to efficiently run their departments? And how do they all work together? It definitely is not my skill set. So I just found the guy who's really great at it and has made running this business feel easy over the last couple of years.
We give a little Coburn a shout out. Coburn, you're a rock star. I think watching you guys and seeing how you built back. First of all, everyone felt the same thing you did, and I think we all got the lesson of cash is king and cash is oxygen. And although we want to invest in real estate and we have a ton of equity and we own things, like you can't eat equity. And if cash flow dries up, like you got to sell stuff. So thank goodness we all had things to sell to put on the balance to get them off our balance sheet and cash in the bank. But I think a lot of people learn that lesson, ourselves included, right? But watching you guys build back and obviously Coburn has been integral in that, from my perspective too. What I think you guys did that was really good is just lots of operation support, right? It wasn't just like one key person that does all the operations of your whole business. It's like every department got operational focus, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then it's all about people. So like it was placing key leaders in each of our leadership roles so that they can own that, like what's the constraint of my department right now, or what needs to be fixed, or what can be done more efficiently. And so I feel like we're at a really good spot now where the leaders of each of our department are owning their role. And holding a high standard for their team members. And I think we've gotten to the point now where our inside sales team, we call them inside sales, but they're appointment setters. We have onboarded new people, and between the other inside sales reps, they've determined like, hey, this guy or gal, they're not going to cut it. Like they're not meeting our standard. And so the leader didn't even have to step in and do anything because the coworkers were like, no, they're going to bring
we're voting you off the island.
They're going to bring our team down. So
where did you find those leaders? Just in terms of like when people go, are you raising these leaders up? Are they people that you're hiring from within, or like you're going out to sources to find these?
It's been a mix. Honestly, most of our great people have come from referral. So people that I know, people that team members know, friends of family. So I haven't had we hire lots of our team members off of stuff like Indeed, but when it comes to our current leaders, mostly from referrals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's nice to get a referral, especially for a leadership position, because you want to know that they've done it before and that somebody would vouch for them, right? What have you learned about hiring now? Like 10 years later, you were afraid to make the very first hire, make that commitment. How do you feel about hiring now? And what advice would you give to people on making their first hire or making their 10th hire after the last one didn't work?
Yeah. I mean, we still make mistakes. You've got to have some sort of process that you put people through. So we use the top grading interview process when we interview new team members. And they interview with 3 people in the company. They do the PI cognitive test as well. But we literally just had 2 project managers, one quit, and actually they both quit. So it's like they made it through the process, and they weren't the right people for the team. Sometimes maybe slightly different topic, but like on team members and hiring, like we just experienced this where we had an underperforming inside sales rep. And I think the tendency can be they're not that bad, or they're getting better, or keep them around. And the team member actually left on his own. And we brought in a new team member to our inside sales team. He was a referral. And I was literally just looking at his dashboards over the last 4 weeks. He's the number 1 appointment setter in our company over the last 3 weeks, which we have some really strong inside sales reps already. But it just kind of breaks down that like limiting belief of keeping a bad team member around. Like there are A players out there. There are people who want to be great, and you just have to go find them, and you got to get them bought into your vision and get them on board.
Oh, so this is exciting to talk about, because it's also, I think, super relevant no matter where you are in your journey. I think that good is the enemy of great, right? And it is so hard to figure out what to do with good. you're just okay, or you're good and you're doing enough, but you're not an A player. You're not like fantastic and it's so challenging to know what to do with those people, because you want to root them on and like coach them up, right? But then they never quite get there, right? And then they're not a drag on the team, but they're not really a shining star for the team. How do you manage somebody like that?
Phew, that's a good question. I think what really helps is you bring someone else in onto the team who is that A player shining star. Like, depending on how many people you need, like maybe you need two salespeople. We'll bring on a third and then find out which one's going to rise up. Because I can tell you what's true about our new inside sales rep, right? We had 3 guys that always kind of compete for our number 1 appointment setter for the week. What do you think is going to happen when the new guy comes in and he beats them all? What happens there? They're going to be challenged. They're not going to want to lose. It's going to make them all better. So that one hire that we made all of the rest of our team better. Where if we kept the low performer in, they can kind of get like, oh, we're the best, you know? So you basically just raise the bar for that team by that one hire.
And then what do you do with the lower performing folks then? Are you just churning off the lower 10, 20% of that team regularly?
We have minimum standards that they have to hit. So if they're not hitting those standards, we'll work on a performance improvement plan. But at the end of the day, like at some point, they've got to hit their numbers. And for our inside sales team, it's 10 in-person appointments booked a week. Our purchasing managers have the same type of thing. They're looking to add a certain amount of revenue to the company each month that they're here. And so those are the standards. That's how you kind of know this is minimum acceptable. And then you want everybody hitting that and then fighting to be number 1 above that.
Yeah. And I definitely think being in a group with super high performers, the people who are not keeping up kind of naturally attrit out. They're like, I can't, I'm not as good. I got to get out of here. Everyone likes to succeed.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to touch on is you have teammates walking around saying that's not our standard. And I think that's amazing not to have that, missed. Like for you as a leader to be able to put that out there where you have team, because you can't be walking the floor and, have insight for everybody, but to have that as the culture. What do you do specifically to help try to foster a culture where everybody knows like this is our standards and this is what we're doing?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one. It's like, where does culture come from? I think it's, the culture is going to be indicative of who your leaders are. Like, how do they act? What are the decisions they make? How do they treat their team members? And what standard do we hold ourselves to? Do we hold ourselves to a high standard of excellence or not? And that, what I found is it's first kind of top down. That's how it gets built. But then then you start to see it come back from the bottom to the top, where those different teams, those frontline workers know what the culture of this company, what we want it to look like, what it is. And then that gets brought back up through the leadership team as well.
Yeah, so that was actually a beautiful picture that you just kind of pictured for me. I had like the idea of this wave, right? Of like it comes from top down, right? But ideally, we're sending out this wave that goes all the way through the company, but is felt all the way through as it comes back. So a great picture of just kind of like what culture should look like, and from one of the best.
I want to dig in a little bit on the culture side and the teamwork side, because specifically with a company that's 10 plus years old, I think a difficult transition point is having the right people on the bus at the right time and outgrowing different team members along the way, which, like you said, like what gets you to 1 million is not what gets you to 3 or to 10. And I think a challenge is kind of this loyalty that the team that got you to 1 and the team, and making those transitions is really difficult. When you see people being outgrown by the company. I think maybe the hardest one is the CEO, COO relationship. Like that first operator that you bring on is like your right-hand man or right-hand woman. Walk us through what it's been like to hire a COO and make changes like that.
Yeah. So, that was 2022 roughly. I had a couple different guys that I placed in that seat. At the end of the day, like I probably put the wrong people in the seat. And I think back then, it's like I remember this term going around a lot, which we try to be careful with now, where it's like we're all just a big family.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good thought, but at the end of the day, I think everybody on our team knows now. It's like we need the right person in the right seat. So if we have a leader, it doesn't matter if they've been there 5 years. It doesn't matter if they've been there 10 years. If they don't have the capacity to take us where we need to go and they become a constraint, we have to do what's right for the company. That's how you're going to survive. And I think everybody buys into that mentality. So I think that's a little bit of a shift where we just can't, if we're going to expect to compete and be successful in the long term, you can't have, leaders in the way or team members in the way who are dragging you down. It's just too hard makes winning way too hard.
You said you've had a couple people in the COO seat, and I think that the hiring the right person is obviously difficult to do, but I think also there's something to be learned about being the CEO and how to work well with a COO. Like, I'm sure that you've personally grown from the making that hire or making those transitions. What do you feel like has been the most impactful to having a really great CEO-COO relationship?
I think being aligned, making sure that you're on the same page. Oftentimes they're like the CEO's got a million ideas and the COO is the one that's got to bring them in to check. And so Coburn and I everybody in our company has a one-on-one with their leader. But Coburn and I have one of those is actually this morning where we just get aligned on what are the constraints? Am I as a COO solving the right problems? Like, are we seeing the same problems that need to be solved right now? Because his one of the things he's most cognizant about wanting to avoid is chasing rabbits. Like, there's a million problems to solve, but which ones are your constraints? Like, what's the constraint of the company, or what gives us the most impact by solving? And so those are conversations that we have every week as things ebb and flow.
How do you determine that together?
I mean, looking at weekly metrics help a lot. Our L10, we go through our metrics, so you know what's yellow, you know what's red, you know what's green. So then you just pinpoint where is the problem right now? Is it top of funnel with we don't have enough leads? Is it inside sales conversion rate? 2 appointments is too low. Conversion rate from your acquisitions team is too low, or contract your kill rate's too high. Like, where's the problem arising? Or it could be people. Like, one thing we've learned is we started taking down a lot more assets, and our project management team is severely understaffed. And that problem was exacerbated by 2 of our project managers quitting over the last 2 months.
Doesn't help that metric.
I'm so excited that you said this because I could not agree more. I think that, looking at what your constraints are, if you're the CEO and the COO, you always got to be looking at revenue. Like, where is revenue not being optimized, right? Where are we losing it, or where do we have opportunity to get a better return on what we're doing? And that always comes down to funnel and people. And what I think is really important to emphasize here, especially for those super out in left field CEOs, that want to create rabbits, it's generally not a new idea. It's not a new market necessarily. Like, on the day-to-day, month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter, it's about executing on your funnel and having the right people that you need on the team to do the things they need to do in the funnel, like from project management, but also on the marketing side, right? It's like your whole business is a funnel. So I love that you said that. And it's not a brand new shiny object. It's not a new thing you're going to vibe code. It's not, it's the diligence of doing the things you know you have to do well, and not losing focus of that. So I love that.
For sure.
So I'd love to also have you just kind of touch on a little bit some of the limiting beliefs of, like, in this growth journey, right? You started out and you were worried about hiring the first person. So we see this from beginning entrepreneurs starting to grow their company, but then also now, as you start to grow leaders, sometimes those leaders are the people that have been in the company for a while, and they're struggling now of now I have to hire. And they start to have some of those same fears of limiting beliefs of not being able to hire somebody, or them not going to be able to do as good of a job as I can. And creating that culture, like you said, of growth and action. One of the things that I think is that you have to have a safe place to kind of fail. yes, we don't want to throw away money, but like I can't be can't be so stringent to the idea of like you have to do it better than me the first time and make talk to us about some of the advice that you would give to either a new entrepreneur that's starting to grow their business or a leader that's now going to grow their department in dealing with some of these limited beliefs.
Oh shoot, man, that's not a problem I have because I'm in this company right now. Like, where do I even add value anymore? Because I'm not the best at anything we do anymore. Like our best purchasing manager, he would probably buy 3 times as many houses I would on the same appointments. Same with inside sales. Fine, it's like, so there are people out there who are really great at whatever they're great at, right? And you can go find those people for your team, including leaders who like our COO right now. It's not the way my brain thinks, but even our sales manager, like I watch him in his one-on-ones with his team. We actually share an office right now, or watch him on the phone or listen to him on the phone with difficult sellers. And I'm just like impressed. I'm like, man, that's better than I could do it. So I definitely think it's a limiting belief. And I think you just have to dip your toe in the water and get out there and make that hire, learn. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, we have hired way more people in this company over the last decade than 40, right?
Yeah.
Probably 200, 250, and only 40 are still here. So we've made more mistakes than we have right decisions on that front. And learn a ton of lessons along the way.
And I'm sure you bring a lot more value than probably what you give yourself credit to. Like I love people such as yourself that are, there's a lot of people that talk out there. There's fewer people that do, right? And so Pat may not be the loudest person in the room, but he's getting more action done than, I would say most everybody that I walk into a room with. So kudos to that. And one of the things I'm sure you've had to work on though is then changing what's between your ears, right? Changing some of your mindset and some of your leadership skills, et cetera. What are you doing to kind of work on those? How have you leveled yourself up to then be able to level the team up?
Yeah, that's definitely been top of mind over the last couple of years where I'm like, I had this realization moment like, wow, I've got to keep moving because my leaders I need to be able to lead them still. And so for me, that's mostly through books, podcasts, like mentors, people who are ahead of me in the business or ahead of me in life that I aspire to be like. I don't have like a one-on-one coach right now, but in the past I have. So that's been a good growth method as well. But I think for me, mostly it's reading and listening to podcasts, like growing your mind space, getting rid of those limiting beliefs, and kind of growing what you think is possible. Like you guys know that there's a lot of people in this business in single family real estate who have failed, but there's also a lot of people who have quote unquote gone on to bigger and better things. And I have found myself sometimes over the last 5 years, like I didn't move on. I'm still doing this same thing. It's kind of this limiting belief, like this thing can only be so big. Should I have moved on to something bigger and better? And over the last couple of years, especially last year and this year, like I don't have that limiting belief anymore. Like this space is as big as I want it to be. I mean, Open Door buys 20,000 houses a year. So it's like, it's not that the size of the market is too small. It's the size of what I thought was possible was too small.
There are about 600,000 houses flipped a year.
Yeah.
This market is big, right?
Yeah. I think that's great advice you gave, and advice I have to give myself. Sometimes you can get down, and I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes when I'm getting down on myself, I tend to retract in, and don't want to put myself out there. Like everything you just talked about for growth to improve your spot when you're in a down slump is about getting out, surrounding yourself with other people, surrounding yourself with other new information, which is not always new information. Sometimes it's just, like Stephanie said, it's relearning something that was kind of already put out there. But so continuing to log on to the podcast. And
what are your favorites? What podcasts and books are you listening to?
Oh man, Founders is one of my favorite. How I Built This is a good one.
Yes, that's a great one.
There's a couple random ones I listened to, like My First Million, I think it's called. But they're just a couple guys who talk about business or talk to entrepreneurs, and one of them is talking about like small businesses like us that exited and like what did that look like? And I don't
Yeah.
have a goal to
Acquired.
exit this company, but yeah, maybe that's it.
Acquired is a really good one for that. Yeah.
Just to hear other people's journey and how they went. And I felt like a lot of these guys get on there and they sell their business and then they regret it later.
Like, wait a minute, I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think travel helps a lot too. I know you have a trip coming up to Switzerland that's mostly for your daughter, but I do think that getting out, especially to another country, can kind of help reset your brain a little bit too, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Last 2 months ago, my wife and I we flew into San Francisco and did a road trip to Santa Barbara. So we hit, what's that place called? Big Sur, and all these little towns on the way through. So it was just a blast. No kids and Jeep with the top down, and definitely clears your mind, and some great hikes. It was so fun.
And then she's pregnant with the 8th, a little relaxing time.
So what happens on those trips? Whoa.
She was already pregnant.
Well, if she wasn't, she would have been, I'm sure. I've got to say this. I know that we're kind of getting towards the end of the episode, but watching you over the last 10 years and even getting to know your team a little bit and getting out there and playing with the puzzle together, something I think that is really distinguishable in you as a CEO is through the last 10 plus years that we've known each other, you have always remained curious and like always open to new information and what's happening in the market. Like you were never the guy who was like, you know what, I've got this figured out. I don't need anyone to teach me anything. I'm going to stay in my own little corner. You were always been super curious about learning and what other operators are doing, et cetera, and always super focused. Like I think that curious and focused are probably some of the core characteristics of you. And I really think that that's made you extremely successful. And probably easier to follow as the kind of core leader, right? Like you don't want to follow someone that's all over the map. And I see why you've been able to recruit and retain such great talent.
Appreciate that, Stephanie.
I think you're doing good things.
Yeah, I think there have been these moments. I've kind of talked about this already, but like, I have we hold some apartment buildings in some different companies, but this is basically all I do. And, I've seen people go start, 2, 3, 4 companies, and that's been a battle in my mind. And, like I said, over the past couple of years, I'm like, well, I can build this thing as big as I want. And you don't have to have these distractions of, the second or third or fourth or fifth company that you started. And so my mind and my headspace is all in on growing ProSource to be everything that it can be.
Yeah. And I look at what that focus has done. I mean, you've done more than, imagine our little baby selves 10 years ago trying to start a business. Like imagine telling yourself then you're going to do 600 houses in a year. I remember thinking Justin Williams was crazy. Like he's not doing 100 houses a year. How is he lying to us? Right. And now here we are. And, you're doing even more than Better Path is doing in your 3 different markets, which is crazy. But look what 10 years of focus can result in. Yeah.
Looking back always puts things in great perspective. I mean, I remember moving to Knoxville and there were 2 guys. One of them hosted a radio show on real estate and he was doing like 50 deals a year. And I just thought he was the bee's knees. And then there was another guy who would buy houses. He was like the bigwig buying at foreclosure sales, who when I was doing that would be competing against. And he did like 50 deals a year. And now it's like you look back and it's like, we closed 650 last year.
Right.
And not to like brag or be cocky, but it's just perspective. You're right. On what focused over a long period of time can
give this guy a radio show.
It's time for the Pat Martin radio show.
We'll start with this podcast and then we'll just get you on the radio.
That's awesome. I think it's great to kind of see what's possible. Like I said, Pat's not a person that's out and likes to just kind of brag and, showboat. But I mean, to actually see what's possible, to grow a family amongst it. I mean, you're closing 60 deals a month and have a, successfully growing family and still finding some time to travel. And so I love to see that kind of stuff, like a life well lived. I don't think there's a ton of people that do life and business with integrity, care, compassion, and success like you do. So I appreciate having you on and sharing some of that wisdom with us.
Yeah, I think the story is really, really powerful. So, super appreciate you coming on and talking with us a little bit. And I know that people who are listening to this are gonna feel super inspired. And maybe, hey, they'll call you in 10 years and be like, hey, I thought you were the bee's knees at 600. I got 1,200.
I hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah. Thanks again for being with us, Pat.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Zach, for having me on.
If anyone wants to learn a little bit more about Pat and his company, it's ProSource Homebuyers, based out of Knoxville. Look them up. They're pretty cool.
Catch them on TV, radio, Facebook.
Right? Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, guys.